the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with Rick Girard.
In 2021, 38 million people left their jobs and found new ones. And this accounts for 57.3% attrition in the US-based companies. Now, this is old news. We've all heard it. But it seems the trend continues as 4.3 million people quit their jobs in January of this year as well. A lot of companies are experiencing turnover today, and it makes one wonder, who's winning? The companies who are winning today are those who focus on their people, focusing on setting systems to enable productivity, fostering personal growth, career pathing, and quite frankly, listening to what their people want. Gone are the days of providing free snacks and a ping pong table. What people want is much deeper now, and it requires more effort. What are you doing that is improving the lives and professional growth? If you're unwilling to provide what they desire, they'll just go somewhere else. I'm Rick Girard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and executives win the strongest hires by sharing insights from top-performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like our guest today, Mr. Nicolas Vandenberghe. Nicolas is the co-founder and CEO of Chili Piper, a SaaS platform helping B2B companies double their inbound conversion rates. Since its founding in 2016, the SaaS platform has thrived with a 100% remote work culture. Now, Nicolas is also a four-time serial entrepreneur in diverse verticals from consumer software to biometrics. He builds his companies under the principles of flexibility, professional growth, and communication, which is what makes Nicolas the perfect expert for today's topic. Nicolas, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So we're going to dig into something kind of fun. We're going to talk about what makes people stay and or makes them jump ship, right? Kind of some of the challenges that people are having, which I know you're not experiencing today, which I'm sure somebody wants some of your magic dust on that one. And then how to make your company sticky for retention. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
All right. So lately we've been starting with a hiring story, good, funny, bad, ugly, whatever the hiring story. If you wouldn't mind, just take a minute and share with us, one of your hiring triumphs or fails.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, we are 100% remote, and we also have a strong focus on inclusion and diversity. I'll give more details about it. So, and as a CEO, I've made the decision to interview every candidate. So I'm the last step in every journey. And as you can imagine, now we have 220 people, so I interview a lot of people. So I'm never too sure what's going to show up on screen on Zoom, in my next interview. So well, a few months back, this person showed up. It's a lady, and I get introduced and I said, where are you calling from? And she's calling from Central Siberia in Russia.
Okay.
For a customer support job. And I said, great. And what leads you to apply to our company? And she said, well, it turned out that I'm gay and my company is actually homophobic. And actually the whole region is homophobic. Oh, so wow. I'm looking for a place where I'll feel much happier. So I was, she was heavily qualified. So I was thrilled to offer her a job. She's come on board and she's been a top performer with us. Actually, there's a silver lining that she's now with these events happening in Ukraine and Russia. And as you know, we're very involved in helping Ukraine. We offered to all the Russian employees to move out of Russia, and she's now in Buenos Aires of all places. So, wow. So we relocated her to wherever she wanted to go, and she picked Buenos Aires. So it really feels good to do good in this case. Yeah.
That is so great. That's a great hiring story, by the way. Thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, I think more, giving people the opportunity is really that's the core of what people want today. They just want the opportunity to thrive, right? And I see so many companies that just kind of hold people down. Um, all right, so let's talk about some of the challenges that people are facing today. I know you're not experiencing some of the same challenges as a lot of people with the Great Resignation. Um, would you mind sharing with me what you told your investor the other day when we had?
Yeah, well, that's right. I was thinking about investors. The one thing that's going really well is our recruitment process. We find all the people we're looking for, and when the first one replied, "Wow, you the first portfolio companies are here saying
Yeah,
that these days," and the other guy said actually saying that in any time of our portfolio companies. But it is the case. What happened is that it's the same thing. Like when you decide on doing something that's right, it's going to pay back later. So when Alina, my wife, and I started the company in 2016, she's from Romania. I'm originally from France. We obviously believe that there are smart people everywhere in the world. So we decided that we'd hire smart people wherever they are.
yeah,
And then Alina and I love traveling. We just love going places. And so we also decided that people could work from wherever they want. They can move cities, go different countries. So we started with that. We hired some guys. The first, with a Ukrainian guy who lived in Montenegro, and another Ukrainian guy who lived in Lviv, and a Romanian guy who lived in Bucharest, and the two of us. And we got started. And we've grown to now 220 people in 180 cities and 40 countries. So when COVID happened, we were all prepared. I mean, we didn't mean to be. We didn't never imagine something like that would happen. But we were all ready, to this work from home, which actually is mislabeled, because we encourage our people to find an office where they can work from, like a
yeah,
WeWork or a co-working space. But it's referred to as work from home.
sure.
Basically, so we were prepared, and then when companies asked for their employees to come back to the office, a lot of people thought, you know what, I've had such freedom, I've enjoyed it so much, I don't want to go back to the office. So I've attended dinners with CEOs complaining about it, saying, I'm bringing back my people, but they refuse to come back, and they're leaving, they're quitting. And I told them, I'm going to tell you, they're quitting to apply to my company, because they're looking for a company that let them work from wherever. And I'm getting a flow of new applications, literally,
Yeah,
for that reason. So
that is so true.
yes,
I'm seeing that too. I feel like there's a lot more CEOs with the same haircut that I have now than yours, because you were prepared for it. And I've got a couple friends who have been running remote companies too forever, and throughout this whole pandemic, all they did was just pick off really good talent.
yeah, that's right.
It's
And
been so optimal.
companies try to improvise, but it is very difficult. So to adjust and move to a distributed model when you started with a centralized model, because the key is that you don't want a critical mass of people, so you don't want the feeling of being left out. So if you have a headquarters, say in Austin, and then you have a few people around the US, they're going to feel that the other guys are having fun in the office and they're not there. Whereas in our case, there's nobody in central office. It's actually a funny thing, but I have about half a dozen additional employees in Brooklyn. I'm actually in Brooklyn myself,
Got
but
it.
they're not in the same office as I am. They decided to go to offices in other places that are closer to them or more fun. So even when we're in the same city or in the same neighborhood, we don't even go to the same office. And the logic is we all in different places, and we organize to work that way, and nobody's feeling different. So we have people in Guatemala or Kosovo, they don't feel any different from people in Denver or Tampa, Florida. They all come on Zoom, they all do their work, and we all on the same level from that perspective. So that I think is a key to making it work really well. This sense of I guess we could call it equality. And then we organize to do everything online. So we have a few techniques that I can go into, and how we make decisions and how we involve people that are very specific to remote work and work online, that make us very effective, and hence the model very high performance.
You keyed out on something that was really interesting. You said, I've had meetings with CEOs, and they're complaining because their people are leaving, and you were saying, well, yeah, they're all coming to me. I think that's something that we all need to hear more of. Like it's funny because I feel like when I call people to recruit them out of a company, they're all taking my calls for the most part. I mean, so if the ones that are not taking the calls are the ones that are being career path, they're being taken care of. They really feel like they're engaged in the company, right? And
That's right.
so I think that's super important in keeping people like if you care about what your people want and then you're providing them what they want, there's really no reason for them to leave. But if you're so focused in on profits and money and customers and not really taking care of the people first, that's where it becomes problematic for you.
Yeah. So in our case, that whole idea of freedom and geographic distribution is one component of what we offer. There are two others that are equally important. The first one is, so the second one is professional growth. And we have it now in our core values about professional growth. The idea that we have a company meeting every Friday, and almost every Friday I say, Chili Pepper is not for cruisers. If you want to cruise, then you can go to the post office or other companies. A lot of companies where you can just cruise along and
Sure.
get to your retirement. We expect you to not only, of course, contribute to have a high performance, but be driven to grow professionally. So grow your skills. So we ask our employees to think about how they want to grow. For example, if you're a sales development rep, what do you want to do next? Do you want to be an account executive? Do you want to be an account manager? Or do you want to explore other opportunities? So we have them. And then we committed to helping them grow in the direction they've chosen. And we've actually hired 3 coaches whose job it is to help people decide on how they want their career to go. And the important piece is that we accept the fact that maybe that growth path and career plan is best to happen outside of Chili Pepper. So if somebody says, I want to do something, we can't offer it, they say that's completely fine. So we don't have, it's as always in life, we don't have a retention target. We don't try to keep people. We just want to help them grow whichever direction they want. And it's a funny thing that everything in life that if you don't have a target, then it works well. Like if you don't try, then it just happens, right? So people stay because of course, we're a fast-growing company, so we have many opportunities for our employees. So that's a key part of it. And the third piece is around inclusion and diversity, and a key part that we call nonviolence. So as I mentioned in my recruiting example, we have this strong belief that we are all sisters and brothers, whatever country, whatever gender. And we want to make sure there's never any violence or non-acceptance in what we do. So we actually have invested in it. So it's, of course, invested in recruiting people from all different backgrounds, but also invested in training around this book called Nonviolence Communication to make sure that everybody feels welcome and happy in the company. And look, there's a lot to do on that front. It's actually both in making sure that we can recruit very diverse backgrounds and making sure that we help people in this nonviolent communication process. But for sure, we are committed to it. So we actually started this training with the first groups like last week around nonviolent communication and the inclusion. I actually had
you know what? I want to get to that in a second. You're listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. I'm your host, Rick Girard. And for our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. Hey, check out stridesearch.com. There you'll find a link to order your copy of Healing Career Wounds. Let it be your startup's secret weapon to landing the strongest hires. Our guest today is Nicolas Vandenberghe, and we're talking about how to kind of, retention. I guess this would really be unintentional retention, right? Or is it intentional retention?
Yeah, right. I think it's intentional that we want to make people thrive at Chili Pepper, and that would result in retention. Yeah.
And that's the thing. You know what? You're putting your people first, which I find is very refreshing. And maybe when you meet with your friends who are CEOs, just let them know, hey, look, if you put your people first, then you probably won't have these problems. I
had a funny thing. Yeah, funny anecdote about putting people first, because you say that and then you say, well, what does that mean? It was a couple of years ago. One guy pings me and says, listen, I just had my nose pierced and I have a ring in my nose, and such in the company said I can't do that because it's going to negatively affect our customers, and one of our customers complained so about the pierced nose, right? So I mean, it happens. You have more conservative customers who so he was a customer success rep, and they face him and they get on Zoom and the guy has a pierced nose.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a memo to the entire company. Actually, guess what was in the memo?
What did it say?
It says, you guys and women dress whatever the way you want. You just show up whatever way you want, as long as it's not illegal. And if a customer is not open-minded enough to accept it, then we lose the customer over losing your freedom. And I wrote the memo, I circulated it, and that's what it was. I said, if a customer, we will lose a customer over doing something that I think is wrong. People should be accepting. If you want a pierced nose, you have a pierced nose. If you want blue hair, you have blue hair. This is 2022, and it's time to be accepting of everything.
So how many people went out afterwards and got their noses pierced? And
I don't know, but we did hire blue-haired and pink-haired employees. Yeah.
All right. So I want to dig into a little bit more about kind of what the steps that you kind of put in place to attract people and to keep people there. Right. So I think when we talked, you gave me kind of 3 different areas: flexibility, formalizing your professional growth, and then of course, you just mentioned the communication, the nonviolent communication, right? So
Yeah.
let's start with the flexibility. I mean, because that's really an easy one for you, but how did you get it right, and maybe what were the challenges in becoming fully remote right off the bat?
So I think we, as many things, we got it right by doing the things that we like.
Yeah.
So, and I like traveling, we have flexibility. So we said, this is how we're going to operate. And we see no reason why our employees and our team members would operate any differently. So whenever there was a question, you say, well, how would I like it? And so that was the operating principle. Every year we take a trip, for example, and we take all the company. And the trip, one year I thought, this year I really want to do the closing of the Pasha Club in Ibiza. Have you been to Ibiza?
No, I have not.
Well, the Pasha Club is really cool, and the closing is a special night at the end. And I thought that's something I want to do. And then I thought, you know what? I'm probably not the only one who would like that. Maybe the entire company would like that. So that's what we did. In 2019, we went with the entire company to the closing of the Pasha Club in Ibiza. And everybody was thrilled. And I mentioned as an anecdote because it's really how we operate. We think, what would be the thing that we would like? And then you get everybody to like it. So from there, we for example, vacation policy, right? So the right thing is to, some countries have a minimum like 5 weeks. Other countries like the US have a minimum of 0. We said, you know what, we're just going to do unlimited, so people can take whatever they think is right. And of course, everybody's reasonable. But now we have managers insisting that people take vacation. So we've really based our policies on what we think is right and what we think we would enjoy, how we'd like our work to happen. Sometimes I think, I wish I'd met Chili Piper when I was in my first job in my 20s, because it's such a cool job, right? I have salespeople, one in particular, an account manager who did the entire summer last year on a sailboat. So she had satellite connection and she was able to do all our calls from a sailing boat in the Mediterranean. So nice. You get on Zoom, you'd see like Sicily or Corsica behind her, and she did a really good job. And I think, wow, I would have loved to have that kind of a work environment when I started my career.
I would imagine if I were a customer and I got that call, I'd be like, wait, you're on a boat somewhere? You're taking my, like, I want to work with you just because of that.
Yes, that's exactly right. You're exactly right, Rick. at first you think, well, isn't the customer be offended that she's on a boat, with the sun and sea behind? But the other way around, they think, wow, this is so cool. I want to work with you.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Totally.
It's actually a plus on the customer relation side. Yeah.
It's much better than a fake Zoom background with palm trees. Like that's, you know what
Where
I mean?
you move your head and your head disappears in the palm trees. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't have hair that disappears, but yeah.
It's a skull then.
All right. So let's talk about professional growth, because I think, you touched upon that a bit. How are you, like, how is that an attractor for your company?
That's a good question, because at first we didn't know how to communicate it. So it's something that you come in, you start experiencing, but from the outside, when we say we focus on professional growth, people didn't necessarily know what it means. So what we did is that we formalized it, as I explained, with a very clear process of designing what we call a Piper plan, like a Chili Piper. We call ourselves Piper. So everybody has their plan. We have a coach, and then we started publishing on LinkedIn, especially, and on TikTok and other places that we do that we help people grow professionally, and little to little. It has become known. So now I have people applying to the company. It has actually happened yesterday when somebody said, I'm feeling I'm not growing in my current position, and I see that you have this focus on helping people grow, and I want to be part. I love your culture. I want to be part of it. So by now they've heard it. They've seen it enough time from different people. They know it's true that we do that, and they apply for that reason to be able to grow. And as you know, I'm sure, there are a lot of people who are stuck in a job where they don't feel they're growing. A lot of people. So if they perceive correctly that you have a solution for that, then they're going to apply.
Yeah, that is so true. Especially leaders. I'm finding that leaders are kind of stuck in a spot where, they might be able to promote somebody up to delegate some of their work to, but there's really no upward mobility and responsibility with a lot of companies. Especially if they're at a large company and they got a chain of command like 4 or 5 deep above them. Not much you can do there, right?
Yeah. No, today I discovered something that I thought had been abolished a long time ago, and that's tenure. So somebody works for a startup and said, when do you want to apply for the next job up if the position became empty? And she said, because I don't have a tenure. They ask you for 15 years in that field of experience, and I only have 8 years. I'm thinking that's nonsense. Right. Yeah, crazy, right? But it was actually a tech company that still has this principle, and I just couldn't believe it.
But look at some of the most successful tech companies that were started up by people that had no experience, and they've taken it to these mega unicorn status companies. They didn't have tenure.
Right? That's right.
Right.
When Zuckerberg set his Facebook, if he had been told, "I'm sorry, but you don't have a CEO tenure."
Yeah, sorry, you need to have 15 years experience.
Like, come back, yeah.
I push back on that all the time with clients who tell me we need somebody who's got X amount of years of experience. I'm like, that doesn't tell you whether or not somebody's good.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't. It just means somebody was nice enough to pay them for 10, 15 years because they did a good job. I mean, because they could be really good, but then again, they could not.
Yeah. So at Chili Pepper, we abolished the annual performance review. We make sure that there's at least something that looks like a check every 6 months, but the reality that the performance review is actually ongoing, and somebody can get promoted at any time. So it's not on the annual review time that you say, next year. At any time, somebody can get promoted. And when I always tell,
is it a surprise you're promoted, or is it a, hey, look
sometimes,
at
sometimes it has happened a couple of times when I go on a Friday meeting and I said, Mary is promoted, and Mary hasn't been told. I do that with people whom I know is not gonna get a heart attack of something surprise. But yes, sometimes I actually surprise in front of everybody. More likely, we surprise them by saying, "Listen, You're doing amazing, and we're going to promote you right now this week. We have something more formalized. It's called a progression app. So we have actually formalized in each job what it takes to get to the next level. So when people are performing really high, it's very easy to spot that they're not performing in the next boxes, right? But what we do is that we're proactive. We don't wait for people to complain or to go to the annual performance as soon as you get there. The truth is that it's a very active labor market right now, as we were saying, right? Talent is in shortage, so the market power is in the hands of employees, not employers. And so if we wait and keep people unpromoted, they'll get somebody call them for the next job up, and they'll be at risk. So we don't take that risk. And I think it's just the right thing to do. If people are performing at a higher level, you just acknowledge it and give them the title and the money that come with that higher level. That's how it should be. So that's what we try to do.
Most definitely. I can't agree with you more. And, when I hear those conversations, or when we have those conversations with people, hey, I just got promoted, there's really not much you can do. Like, hey, congratulations, let's sync up later on down the road. But, that person's going to want to stick it out.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. If you're going to poke somebody, it's like the wrong timing. It was just got promoted.
Yeah,
so
exactly. All right. So let's think about this nonviolent communication thing before we wrap up. So what is that, and how do you incorporate that into your interview process or your day-to-day workflow?
So when we started Chili Pepper, we had the first value of the company is help. And it's help our customers, but also help one another. And I kept repeating every Friday in our company meeting, violence has no place in this company. Let me actually take a step back and give me my.
So you're not going to be hiring Will Smith anytime soon.
That's right, exactly.
I had to. Sorry.
Quite amazing. But to be honest, violence is so ingrained in human beings that it's difficult to avoid, and we all make mistakes. So I'm not going to throw a stone at Will Smith. I mean, obviously, it's not a good idea to slap people, but we'll lose it sometimes, or we may lose it sometimes. But the important piece is that Alina and I we're looking at the evolution of humankind, and you think, okay, we went from a world where we had slaves, right? And finally, people recognized, no, that's not right. You can't have slaves. And then we said we had apartheid, so like different classes, and eventually that was abolished. And then women were given the right to vote, which is actually recent. It's amazing, but it's recent. Yeah. So gradually, the humankind progresses in a way where we understand that we equal and all brothers and sisters. Yeah. And for me, the next frontier is actually violence, because if you think of it, if you a sister and brother being violent towards one another makes no sense. There's especially killing, right? I mean, that's the ultimate. Yeah. I mean, I just posted about how Alina gave life to two wonderful little boys. The idea that you're going to go and kill somebody else and deprive life somebody is completely nonsensical. But even the idea that I would slap you or hurt you is nonsensical. Why would we do that? It makes no sense that we would do that. So we had this realization that it's the next frontier to. Elon Musk can go to Mars and all that, but on planet Earth, the next frontier for humankind is to abolish violence, to finally have relationships that's all harmonious. So that's a grand project. But when we raised 30 million last year, so last March we raised a B round of 30 million. Alina and I went to the board and said, we want to take 1 million of the 30 million, create a foundation and start small, but start an effort to stop violence in the world. So that's a big picture. Now to your question, how does that apply to our employees? Well, I ran into this book called Nonviolent Communication that explained exactly how to remove violence from conversations and interactions among human beings, with very precise techniques on how you can rethink your engagement with somebody else to avoid any violence. And I was floored. It's called Nonviolent Communications. I can't remember the name of the author. He's a famous mediator who passed away a few years ago. So okay. I was amazed, and I thought, this is the solution. If everybody could apply these principles, it would be a different world. So we looked for trainers. We hired trainers, and now we're training everybody on that book. Myself going to go through the training next week, and we have high intention of deploying that book and these principles in the company.
That's outstanding. All right. Well, shoot, we're getting pretty close on time, Nicolas. What would be 2 or 3 key takeaways you can give the audience they can plug into their business today?
I think the number one thing that people don't do well enough is this focus on professional development. It's like if you want to be attractive to candidates, the right thing to do is work on the foundation and make your company a place where people are going to grow professionally. At the end of the day, that's what everybody aspires. You want to feel that you're making progress and that you have a purpose in going to work and a goal. And so that, I think that's the thing we've done really well, and I think that is still not well understood by many companies.
Very cool. All right, Nicolas, thanks so much for your time investment today, and I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way in which members of the audience can find you, your company, and all that good stuff?
Well, the best to come to our website, Chili Piper. So it's a play on word. Some people say, you guys are Chili Pepper. And we say, no, we're not. We're the Chili Piper. It's a play on word with Pipeline Piper. We're also very active.
Pepper either, right?
We're not Pied Pipers. That's right. There's actually a band in Scotland called the Red Hot Chili Pipers. They play the pipes. Yeah, on our website. So we have a career page for people interested in coming on board with our journey. And of course, a customer page to book a meeting with us. And we're very active on social media also. So you can come and follow us on LinkedIn and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter.
All right, cool. Thanks so much. All right, and thank you to our listening audience for tuning in to this week's episode of Higher Power. Quick thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. You can, after all, this show's for you, and we want to make sure that we're continuing great content that you can plug into your business today. You can join the Higher Power Radio community at Higher, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or you can drop me an email at rickatstridesearch.com. Tune in next Tuesday. Our guest is going to be Ville Huntu. He is the CEO of Vincent USA. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to recruitment success, Rick Gerard.